Good afternoon, my NACE family. It is so good to see you guys again. I mean, this is our fifth day of an incredible week of webinars, and obviously, we saved the best for last.
Oh
I
gosh,
mean,
stop. I mean,
I
come
know, right?
on, but
Gosh. Well, I'm a total fangirl. I'm a total fangirl when it comes to this, and I absolutely love what we're going to talk about, and what you're going to be speaking about today. I saw you do this at one of the NACE conferences in the past, and it stuck with me. And so when you were so gracious about setting up this week of webinars for our NACE family, I mean, I knew exactly what I wanted you to talk about. I mean, even before you gave me your list, I was like, please, I want the habits of highly successful event professionals, and I was like, oh, so happy that you gave it to us. But let me first start out and say thank you to NACE National for giving us the platform to be able to do this. It's amazing, and I'm so happy that so many of you took advantage of it, because literally we've had upwards of 60 people every single day, and then like today obviously seems to have the largest turnout with almost 200 people registered. I mean, incredible. So thank you, NACE National, for providing this platform. Also want to say, oh, I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Keith Willard. I'm the president of the Greater Broward and Palm Beach chapter of NACE. But I also want to say thank you to my Southeast peeps that have helped promote this throughout their chapters. So thank you, Charlotte, Northeast Florida, Orlando, Greater Miami and the beaches, and the Tampa Bay area. You guys have been awesome with promoting this throughout your leagues, and our success is basically based on your efforts. So thank you so much. But let's get to it. So first of all, let's just say that let's save the questions until the end. We're gonna put them in the chat as we go along, and then that way we can condense them at the end and make sure that you're able to really enjoy this experience, because it's an experience with Meghan. So a little bit about Meghan. She is the OFD Consulting owner. And by the way, there is a little story about OFD, but we'll talk about that later. And she combines in the trenches event experience with a love of wedding PR to empower her clients and take their business to a new height. A long-time industry speaker and writer, she is a wedding pro educator with the Knot and Wedding Wire. Impressive. As well as a regular contributor to Wedding Planner Magazine, Catersource, and SpecialEvents.com. I mean, seriously, incredible. Her team's publicity efforts are regularly honored by the Public Relations Society of America and by us at NACE. Meghan and her colleagues won top honors in issues management for her media strategy pivots at the height of the Zika crisis. And it feels like we're in a very similar situation now.
yes.
More recently, the OFD team has been working around the clock with COVID-related media coverage and have received 60 plus placements with such outlets as CNN, NPR, Fortune, Good Morning America, Bride, Martha Stewart Living, and many more. A long-time supporter of industry associates, Meghan currently serves as the 2020 International Vice President for WIPA and was the founding marketing director for Richmond NACE. Oh my God, you're our NACE family.
Yeah, you have to come and like introduce me everywhere. The enthusiasm is palpable.
Oh my
I'm
God, I'm
excited.
so super stoked about this. It's so incredible. I mean, and I know that this is you've shortened this bio because I am sure that there's a lot more to it. I mean, if
You're
I'm a
sweet. You gotta know,
fangirl
I
just
am
after.
literally blushing for the first time in years. Like I can feel my face getting hot. Yeah, like you
Oh, so excited. No, seriously, I'm so excited. And oh
Thank
gosh,
you.
the numbers keep going up. Oh, we have a great
Yay.
turnout for today.
Yeah, it's
So
great,
I'm
especially
gonna
for Friday afternoon.
right. So I'm gonna go bye-bye, and I'm gonna let you get started, ladies and gentlemen. Meghan Ely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, what a well, I was going to say, I sent him a bio on the fly and just said, shorten it wherever you see fit. I didn't expect him to add so many exclamation marks to it. So thank you, Keith, so much. And thank you for pulling myself, as well as our wedding industry speakers, into this week when you came to me and you were like, let's do what it's like. How about one speaker? How about three? How about five? I'm like, whatever, let's do it. I'm a longtime NACE member myself, as you mentioned, in Richmond, of course, shout out. And I've been a member, I swear, almost a decade at this point. Kathy will have to check on I haven't gotten a cake yet. So I know at some point I'll hit 10 years, but a longtime NACE member, and I'm thrilled to be here today talking about the top habits of highly successful event pros. And as I told Keith, so this originated with some national conferences, and I kept it on my list, and we've continued to make some changes to it and evolve. And I'm going to tell you, like, I'm starting things off very different than I usually do. I usually have a quip and an anecdote and a picture of Star Wars or a cat or something, but I want to speak to you guys a little bit differently today. When this was elected, I was eager to do it because of so many things going and changing, of course, with the events of this week, with COVID and everything. I know there's so many things on our minds right now, right? And I know that sustainability is certainly top of mind for a lot of folks as we weather, of course, talking about the pandemic of what we're going through for that. And so the Habits of Highly Successful Event Pros started as a talk that I really felt strongly about with sustainability, but now it's taken on a new meaning with everything that 2020 has brought to us. And so I appreciate your time today, this Friday afternoon, to go through all the things. I will tell you at the very beginning as well is that I will have the slides readily available. So you may want to sit here taking notes, but know that I will have slides readily available and some additional guides at the end. So my hope is for you just to take it all in, and then we'll go from there. But as we've said, these times, of course, they are changing. And I will start with some statistics to get us going here. Some scary statistics, and speaking to my fellow entrepreneurs for a moment out there, is what we see by the numbers with new businesses that come in. Typically, in most years, 30% of them in the first year will go out of business. 55% will in the first 5 years. And then by 10-year mark, it's 66%. Now, I've been in business 11 years, which means, oh gosh, don't make me do math, but well, you can do the math on it, a third, 33, 34% of is what's left of remaining of the people that started the business the same year that I did as well. And although we do not have statistics yet, I've looked at it, it's too early to tell. We can assume a couple of things from what's going on in 2020. One is, unfortunately, we are going to see businesses closing, small businesses, businesses that other people work for. I was in hotels for a long time, so I feel for my venue friends out there right now. But in addition to seeing these numbers, I can assume probably go up relatively quickly. What we're also going to see, and for anyone, shout out in the chat here, anyone who was here for 2008, 2009, I myself was in venues and then started OFD. What we saw from there as well was that there was a deluge of people that came into the market. There were layoffs, things that people decided to make moves and what have you. And what happened was, because the wedding and event industry as a whole has a low barrier for entry in a lot of the categories, what we found was a deluge of people coming into the market. So not only are we going to see, and I hate to say this, an increase in the number of people potentially going out of business, but we're also going to see, and I hate to be doom and gloom, but we're going to see more competition out there, which is now the time for us, whether, you know, I know some people have more time on their hands than others, but now is the time to make sure we have all of our bases covered so that we can be sustainable and in this business, frankly, for as long as we want to be, as long as we choose to be in the special. I can't imagine ever leaving it, but for those who choose to stay in it, that it's our choice and not outside factors as well. So let's go ahead and dig in here. Now, I don't mean to be a negative Nelly about this, but we're going to jump right in and say, guys, this is what we're getting wrong right now. And this is just a partial list. Of course, there are things along the lane, but based on lots of studying, based on observation, based on statistics, based on my own anecdotes here, these are the things I want us writing down that we really need to be mindful of as we make our way to making sure that we're not only successful, but we're also sustainable. First and foremost, only having sort of, there's a lot of air quotes today, sort of an idea of where we are going. The fact of the matter is, what I hear time and time again, no matter when we're in crisis, we're back in 2019 and better times for a lot of people, is it's detrimental to companies when we don't have some, not even necessarily clear path, but relatively clear path of where it is that we're going. I'm going to pull on myself for a second. When I started OFD all those years ago, after a bunch of years in venues and what have you, I had a general idea of where I wanted my company to go, but I was willing to make adjustments as basically I decided to see fit. And over the years, we've revisited over the years. We've decided to ourselves, listen, you know, do we want to be a membership? Do we want to be retainer? Who are we focusing on? But we always want to have an idea of where we're going and what has to happen in order for all of this to be successful. It's really about, of course, as we know, defining what success means to our companies. And that can mean different things for different people. But being able to have an idea of where we're going with that. And what does that look like? It's a few different things. So first and foremost, it could absolutely be revenue. It could be revenue. It's what kind of money, and money's going to come up a lot today, but this is my first mention of it. It's going to be about what kind of numbers and metrics are you looking. Now, obviously metrics are going to look different for this year. I mean, it's not lost to me. I made this presentation well before COVID and had to do a huge revamp knowing that the numbers were going to look different this year. But also, I want to kind of relate back to a talk I did at Wedding MBA a couple of years ago when we talked about work-life balance. I kind of laugh at that. I don't really have work-life balance, but the idea of balancing a household and being in the industry. And what we talked about is how if you want to be successful and sustainable, you absolutely have to focus on where you see yourself in those 3 years, those 5 years, those 10 years. And I know I get the eye roll here. It's like, oh God, that question from interviews, right? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But what we find statistically speaking, believe it or not, and I'm probably the least woo-woo person you're ever going to meet. I had a beloved client who had a meeting recently and they were burning sage in the background. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just not really woo-woo. But what we find, and this is the most woo-woo thing I'm going to say here, is what we find is that when people truly write it down, when they have the visualization, when they say, these are the things I see for myself in the future, they, statistically speaking, they are far more likely to receive and be able to get to that point and meet those goals. And so when I was at Wedding MBA talking about this, and forgive me, I'm going to pull the parent card for a second. One of the things that I always felt I wanted, this is long before I have kids, and now I have a 7-year-old. I was just telling Keith and these guys, he actually came to NACE Experience when he was 3 months old. Everyone got to meet him. It was his first national conference in Chicago. And one of the things I thought of when I think of the success of OFD, yes, I have the numbers. Yes, I know how many clients I want and all those things. But to me, part of that visualization was having the choice to take my kid off of the bus at the end of the day. Now, is it something I do every day? No, but I wanted the flexibility in my schedule. I wanted to get a point in my life where I built a team up to the point where I could walk away even for just a couple of hours and get him off the bus. And that stuck with me for, I mean, he started school when he's 5. So even before that, that visualization stuck with me for about 8 years, because that is the direction I'm going. I was able to define what success means to me. And for some people, for many people, that's not what success means to them. But my point in this is that at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you yourself have an idea of what defines success for you in order to move forward. Now, this is where hopefully I put this in. It's a little cheeky, but NACE people are cheeky, so I feel like it's going to work just fine. Keith and Kathy were making fun of it. I'm like, y'all are going to love this slide coming up. So pivot. Everyone hates talking about it right now because it's overused. I have seen people turning it into a drinking game. Every time we hear a pivot, we're going to take a shot of whatever you want at this point. But the fact of the matter is, I know that's a buzzword we're hearing a lot right now, but it's kind of the evolve. You've got to evolve in order to be successful and sustain. I'm not saying, of course, that you can't do what you did in 2019 and still see success, but you have to be open to new ideas at this point. We have to be open to the fact that intimate and micro weddings are here, period. And we can talk about it at the end if you have any questions. We have to be clear that there's going to be virtual parts of what we're doing that's going to change what we're doing. Even if we don't want to use the word pivot, we can't be afraid of what that means for us. We want to be mindful of what pivoting looks like, of course, because we don't want to branch off so much that it doesn't make sense for our brand, but we can't be afraid to fail as well. So let me show you what I think is pretty hilarious. So not to brag, drinks on me. Next time I see everybody, I made $2.21 on Skillshare last month. So I myself, when I saw what was going on, I really didn't know. I mean, I don't think anyone could guess where we were going to be with our companies and our businesses, 60 days ago, 90 days in the future now. And so for me, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a slight pivot. On weekends, I'm going to start recording. Skillshare is a place where you can sell courses. I'm going to take I have so many webinars, and I'm going to take my webinars, and I teach at a local university. I'm going to combine them and do PR for small businesses. And I went ahead and put it up there, and I put it up there, and it's like you get paid basically based on the number of minutes watched, and I made $2.21 the first month. Now, I was chatting with Meryl Snow recently about it, and I said, I really want to keep pursuing it. She goes, why? She was horrified. She goes, why, you only made $2? I said, yeah, but according to next month, I'm going to make $20 on that. And man, if I just make 10 times the amount every month, No, I'm kidding with that. But my point is, I wasn't afraid to pivot to try something that was low impact in order to just kind of see where it went, maybe test the waters. If you're more of a tester, The Lean Startup is an amazing book that can walk you through this. But this is a good example. I wasn't afraid to try something low impact and see where it went. And I'm still creating webinars and starting to put it up because my thought is, man, if I get to a point where we'll see where things are going, and right now we're gratefully very busy, but if I'm going to be really thankful down the road if I've built up this sort of side hustle at this point. So don't be afraid of the word pivot. I think we're afraid to, we are afraid to pivot. We are afraid to be open to other changes, but now more than ever, we have to really take a look at what has to happen in order for you to remain a success. Another mistake I see, we stop learning. We stop learning now. I know it's ironic coming on a webinar, you're like, I'm learning right now, dummy, what are you talking about? But it does come down to learning. At the end of the day, we think we know everything, but it's technology we need to embrace. There are things that really in the last week, and I will bring this up, everything that has happened, especially in the last week, and with the civil unrest and with all the things, it really opened my mind to the fact that I don't know enough about race relations in the event industry. I was just telling these guys that I've had a lot of people coming to me asking me, because I did a lot during COVID about PR and branding and messaging and all of this. But with everything that's happened and transpired in the last week, I had people coming to me, and I was very quick to say, listen, I am not qualified to speak on that. And I was just telling Keith and Kathy, but I myself have hired someone to come in next week and help do training in a webinar with us. So we can't stop learning. And we think that by coming on webinars, that's a step, and it is, but we should be reading. We should be humble to the fact that we don't know everything. Next, our misinterpretation of what successful growth looks like. Bunch of years ago, I started connecting with this great cake person who was brand new, a lot of grassroots effort, hugely talented. You know, when you see that kind of entrepreneur and you see what they're doing, you're like, oh God, you're really gonna kill it in your market when all the things come up. And she started having this meteoric rise. I'll never forget it. And then I ran into her one February day, and I said, hey girl, like, we'll just call her Amy. Amy's always my fake name. Amy, how are things going? And she goes, I have booked more business in January than I have all of last year. And of course, I congratulated her. I didn't want to be the one to just kind of squash any of that, but I said, hey, Amy, that's wonderful. You've got to be really careful with that though, because we often think that growth, it has to look like this. But the fact is, especially in these times, if we're getting honest with ourselves, growth doesn't necessarily, when you go that fast too quickly, unfortunately, you run into issues with obvious overhead. And that's something we also have to look at as well. I always use also, forgive me, I am a royal wedding buff, and so I talk about the royals all the time. Kate Middleton, who I know I talk about her like everyone knows, but future Queen of England, she got married to Prince William. When she was truly introduced after their engagement, she wore this beautiful blue wrap dress. It was a sapphire dress. It went very well with her fancy sapphire engagement ring. It was iconic. It's an iconic dress. And the people who made it, the company at the time, they were having some problems, and they did not know she was going to wear the dress. They go out, she wears the dress, everyone wants the dress. Not only do they sell out, but it's this, again, the growth is crazy for this. They start having to have all these back orders and wait lists, and they want to meet the demand early, just kind of like Oprah's favorite things, right? People want it now. They don't want it 6 months from now. Because of all this, and because of all the overhead she had to bring in all the money, she actually brought in a partner. She brought in a partner very quickly to be able to help pay ahead for all of these things. And what happened within a year, that partner took over and they eventually shut down the business. And it's a great example of growing too quickly. Now, I know I really thought about this on the way. I thought to myself, do I tell the story about huge growth in the middle of a pandemic? I'm like, how appropriate is that? But I think we need to talk about that. And on the other side, talk about the fact that we need to be realistic about what successful growth looks like this year. You're going to hear me talk about Michelle Loretta probably several times during this talk because she is my financial guru. And when things hit the fan with COVID, we sat down and went through all my numbers, and we had to understand that coming out of this year, flat growth, no growth would even be considered a success. Growth to the point where there's no growth or there's a dip, but I still have money in the bank, that's considered a success. So we have to remember that whether you're looking at growing like this and we're looking to do this, you've got to be very mindful. Right now, and I am not #1 business strategist with this, but I would tell you guys, and I would tell you guys very carefully, as you start to build into next year. Many of you are pushing things back. I know we don't like talking about, but we're pushing things back to the fall. We're pushing back things to 2021. And what we want to do is start booking our Fridays and our Saturdays and Sundays. And for some people, that model works. But and I understand that, believe me, I understand as a fellow entrepreneur, the need to bring in cash, but you've got to be very careful with what that immediate growth looks like when it comes to being able to have the right staff and have the overhead that you need to be able to make that work. So if you don't have a financial strategist on your hands and you're able to do so, bringing one in, it would be invaluable right now. We also have to be careful about not being too anecdotal about what's working and what's not working. And that is more essential than anything I'm probably going to talk about today. Oftentimes around the first quarter, I get a lot of my clients and collective members kind of panicking with me saying, oh my God, renewal would sell me pretty, or they're not, or wedding wire, or whomever. Maybe it's a local thing. I don't know if I should renew or not. And I said, well, was it successful? And they're like, I don't know. And we hear about that with bridal shows. And even when we talk about going to conferences, it's like, well, did any of it work? Well, I don't know. And so now more than ever, we have to hold our dollars very, very closely. I had one of the best lessons I could ever learn when I worked at my first venue at Maymont in Richmond, Virginia. It was amazing because I worked for a nonprofit, had no money. I mean, nonprofits, right? We didn't have a ton of money. We had a beautiful space. And so what I was required to do, and this is in the Stone Ages when I first got started in town, but we had to input every single inquiry that came in, every phone call, every email, every single person. We averaged about 1,000 inquiries a year. We had to ask, how did you hear about us? And we had to wait till we got that answer so we could truly map out what was working and what was not. We could not afford, and now more than ever, we cannot afford to be anecdotal about that. I'm going to give an example. Kathy doesn't know I'm about to do this. I am, many of you probably seen, I am a known sponsor nationally of NACE. We track what that looks like. And I've already gone back to them and said, this is a no-brainer. Like, we've been tracking what the success needs to look like from this. We've booked, I mean, gosh, in the last 9 weeks, we've easily booked 50 speaking engagements within NACE alone. Like, that's a success to me, but I have to be anecdotal about it because right now we are looking at where we're making cuts and where we're spending more. So what does this all mean to you guys in particular? You need to make sure you're asking every single person coming in, whether they book or not, how did they hear about you? If you've not installed Google Analytics or something similar on your site, either you do it or you have someone, if you're working for someone, make sure that they're doing it. See where your traffic's coming from. I just had this really great honest talk with a wedding pro yesterday who wants to pull out of this years-long relationship with a magazine that shall remain nameless and said, I don't think it's working, but we've known each other so long. And I said, you have to go back to the statistics here. You have to see how much this is really booking you. You have to see, like, whatever those metrics are, whether it's an SEO thing or whether it's how many people you're booking and bringing in. You need to not be anecdotal about this, and you need to be careful with your money. And I would tell all of you guys, I mean, when I sat down with Michelle at the beginning of all this, we went ahead and knew where we need to make superfluous cuts. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, and this is going to be a tough one, guys, one of the biggest mistakes we see are people valuing creativity over organizations. Now, what I mean is this. We in the event world, most people at least, are very creative. I say most because I don't feel I'm very creative when I see the work of my amazing clients, but and the work of my amazing fellow NACE members. But what we do is, how many times have you talked to people, and I know some people don't want to hear this, and they'll say, oh, they're so great, but listen, they never answer their phone. They never return voicemails. Oh, you can't email them. They'll never return their email. Oh, they're a hot mess. They'll probably never find that contract. Well, I got to tell you, a reckoning is coming. Now, if this was last fall, I would have just chastised y'all and said, listen, even if you're an amazing creative who feels that you've got kind of a type B personality and all that, you've got to learn to be able to manage and have systems in place. But now more than ever, a reckoning is coming with everything going on. I can't tell you how many folks I've seen. It breaks my heart where it's like, oh, I didn't really, you know what, they were supposed to sign the contract, then they didn't, and now I'm out a bunch of money. I mean, I have seen that more now in the last 2 months than I've ever seen in my existence. So what I say is this, and by the way, let me be clear, I don't want to offend anyone. You can be highly creative and very organized. Please know I'm saying this. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of creatives out there who find that organization and staying on top of things is not easy for them. And I get it. Math isn't easy for me. I'm really bad at, I'm bad at math. I'm bad at a lot of things. I could go through all of them right now. I'm really bad. I was going to say little NACE I was gonna say whipping cream. I'm really bad at making meringue. So they're just things I'm not good at, right? But then I find other people who can help me with math and meringue. And right now, there are so many folks out there and there's who can help you. I've got a virtual assistant. I find that there's some great people talking about how to be a solid number two or have a solid number two who works for you. There's also technology, apps and programs. Kevin Tennis talks about it all the time. That now more than ever, there are plenty of opportunities for you to get organized, but now is the time to put systems and processes into place. It's the only way people are, it's one of the ways that people are going to be on the other side of this. Also, we have to be careful about an over-independence on a single entity. What's so interesting is I originally created this slide last November, and my story still reigns true today. Back in 2008, 2009, I worked with some really great people. And by worked, I mean different colleagues when I was still doing events and things like this. And what I noticed in one particular market is that there was a planner that she was great, and a lot of people really relied on referrals from her. So I had florists that I knew, there were caterers that I knew, rental companies that primarily a huge chunk of their business came from this planner. Then 2008 hit in 2009, and that company went bankrupt. And not only did it trickle down, which is, by the way, a tragedy, obviously, for that company, but on top of that, it trickled down to all these other places that had relied on her solely for the majority of their referrals. Another example, I was in the woods of Georgia, as one does sometimes. I was at a conference, and it was a couple years ago. And usually when I go other places, I'm a nerd, and I type in these keywords to see like wedding PR, wedding publicity, and see if I pop up in different regions. And I type it in, and I'm not on the first page of Google. And I kind of yelped like pretty loudly because I'm always in the top 3 on Google, but to not be on it at all. But then I remembered for myself for a second that Google is not the #1 way, because we track, is not the #1 way people find me. There are other ways. It's through speaking and referrals. And yes, it's SEO, but they find me on social media. I knew it could be fixed, which it was. Google was just re-indexing. But my point is, I don't rely on a single entity because I saw what happened in 2008, 2009. Because when Style Me Pretty made the announcement they were shutting down, which, spoiler alert, they obviously didn't in the end, I knew a ton of photographers freaking out because like that's where all my referrals come from. So guys, you cannot rely too much on one single entity, especially right now where things are really all over the place. So if you're someone who relies a lot on one particular venue, one particular planner, one particular media outlet, because those guys are suffering as well, I would really challenge you to take a look at where your referrals are coming from and diversify, diversify, diversify. See, I didn't say pivot. So also, saying yes to the wrong people. We say yes all the time because we're people pleasers. We're in hospitality. We're here serving at the pleasure of everybody. We can't help it. And so the problem with that is now more than ever, we are stretched on time. We're stretched on resources. If I can get a quick shout out to my failed homeschool teachers out there, I myself was a pretty terrible homeschool teacher that, I've lost a lot of my time and relatively some of my sanity. And so I have to say no to things. Just today, my alma mater, I'm a JMU, go Dukes. If we have any Dukes, jump in the chat later if you're a fellow Duke. But I sit on a board with them, but then they ask me for something else. And I usually immediately like, heck yeah, go Dukes, whatever. Then I thought to myself, you dummy, it's right in the middle of the 4 business hours you get in a day, East Coast time, to do your work, because I work right now 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., then I homeschool, and then I work from 1 to 6, and then in the evening time. Don't be jealous. And so for me, I had to say no for the first time ever to JMU after 11 years. But it's a good example of we have to be careful who we're saying yes to right now. Don't say yes to the inspiration shoot because you're afraid that another rental company, another planner, another photographer is going to jump in on it. If it's not the right fit for you statistically, if it's not going to get you from point A to point B, and point B should be success and sustainability, then you say no to it. And don't feel bad about that. And baby, if you're like, well, I don't want them to think I'm shutting them out forever, let them know you're open to opportunities down the road. That's what I did with JMU. I'm like, I need more time than that to be, and I can't do it during that time. So I would encourage you guys to know that it's okay as hospitality professionals to say no on occasion. Now, let's go ahead and shift. That seems very negative, right? Because it's all like, don't do all these things. But let's talk about what we should be doing. I want to talk about what we should be focusing on. This is what matters right now. First and foremost, your team. I would not be here without my team, exclamation point, underline. And my team takes on many, many forms. This is not all of them. My team is, and my team's all over the place. I have had a team since I was a solopreneur. So I don't want anyone out there to say, well, I'm only myself. No, you're never just yourself. There are interns, there are people you can outsource, but I can't stress that you build it before you need it. This bears repeating. You build it before you need it. And I'm going to tell you why. The twinsy over here, Ariana, on my left at least. Ariana, who we showed up at the airport together. I think we're going to a conference. We're literally wearing almost the same outfit. We did not plan that. Ariana has been with me for the better part of 9 years. She was my first paid employee. She went on to a full-time position when I didn't have one, and then she came back. I'm getting like goosebumps because I feel so strongly about them. Like, I just love her so much. Having those people in your life, in your business, who can support you, absolutely invaluable. When I had gallbladder surgery and was down and out, and then on top of that, I'm in the middle, I'm completely in a drug haze. And then unfortunately, we lost a very beloved member of our wedding industry. And even though I'm all like, jacked up and all this stuff, I was kind of put in charge of gathering the troops and supporting her partner and getting everyone to the funeral and all these things. She stepped in without asking. She stepped in, she knew exactly what she needed to do. She was there because we built it. Well, one, because she's amazing, and two, she built it before she doesn't need it. I often see a lot of these great rock stars out there, rock stars in training, and I think to myself, they need a number two. They need someone out there who can support them and who can jump in their place when things happen. I could not be a failed homeschool teacher from 9 to 1 every day if I didn't have a team doing that. But on top of that, it's also, even if you're on your own here, it's also about building a team and outsourcing. I'm going to be the most honest I'm ever going to be right now. When COVID hit, I thought, oh my God, this is just going to ruin the wedding industry, on top of everything else, on top of my fear of health, on top of my fear of my family. I mean, all those things. But I thought, oh my God, this will decimate at least 2020 for us potentially. And I want to be proven wrong, by the way, on that. But this is going to shift how things are going. But let me tell you, I was able to pass that feeling, which I think we should all embrace if we feel that way, because I had a team in place already working with me. I could be lifted up and continue on and work those 90-hour weeks and all the things because my team was in place to make these things happen, because again, we built it before we needed it. So I've got just a few people. There's so many people I could give shout outs to, but I think it's important to say, if you don't have a great accountant, go get a great accountant. Go get a great accountant, a great bookkeeper. Eric Moore has been my guy for 10 years. He's also, funny enough, my husband's best friend, who happened to have a family run wonderful accounting agency. But let me tell you what Eric did. In the middle of all this ish going on, Eric was on top of what happened with the PP loan at the very beginning. And he wrote me at some odd hour, and he didn't just do it because I'm married to his best friend. He did it for all his clients he was working with. He said, listen, the PPP is getting ready to go. Here's all the paperwork you need, and your bank is going to be too slow. So I'm going to introduce you to this bank, and they're going to do it for you. What? And I got the loan. I got the loan on the first round because someone was watching out for me. And I can say that now because I know people are getting the loan. I will be the first to say, when I got the loan, it was very bittersweet because I know a lot of people weren't. But now that I can say this with confidence now, because I know more, like, people are getting them, but it was because he put that together. I sat down with Michelle Loretta, who has done my finances for 5 or 6 years. She knows more about my money than probably my husband does. I was like, she knows everything. She's in all the closets. She's seen all the skeletons, all the things. And I sat down with her and I said, we have to go through my 18-month cash flow plan immediately. And she was at the ready. When I got the PPP loan, we went ahead and hired her to put together a spreadsheet that told me exactly what I would owe back and what I wouldn't, all the things. And now, can I get the PPP loan? For those who have it, I don't know if you've heard, but they've extended it now so you can use it for 24 weeks. She's the first to tell me that. Now, below that is Sharif, my beloved Sharif. Sharif does my website, and I went through a rebranding. It went live this week. I've been very, with obvious reason, quiet about it. But when everything hit the fan, I 2/3 of the way paid him, and I said, listen, 2 things. One is I'm still going to pay you, of course, but don't go over the budget, please. And 2, because of the nature, I mean, Keith read off all the places we've been busy right now. Because of the nature of that, when you write me, I can only respond on weekends right now. And he was cool with it. And yes, my website took 6 months, but that's okay. It wasn't his fault. It was because I was busy all the time. But I was able to lift myself up from this because I built it before I needed it. And guys, now is the time to put the right team together. And listen, even if you're at a point right now where you can't budget for bringing in certain people, do the research. do the research, find who might be the right people to add to your team. And listen, if anyone needs any referrals, don't take Ariana, but you can have everybody else. So also your vendor relationships. Now more than ever, we have to be in solidarity with one another. And part of it goes back to the statistics of not relying on the single entity, but relationships matter. Splendid Insights comes out every year with these amazing statistics about, now this is on the wedding side, but how couples find their wedding day team. And we see time and time again, while SEO, Google is right at the top, so too are vendor referrals. So you have, not only for that, but it's also the solidarity. I mean, I've become especially close to some of my fellow wedding pros in event pros in the last 60 to 90 days, because we're feeling it the same right now. And so that's been a really big part of my sanity. I'm like on Marco Polo all the time with books. But let me take you back to Experience last year where this photo was taken. And I want to tell you why this picture means so much to me. So I started with Richmond Nace. I was one of the founding members because my friend Nina Whittleton joined the board and literally said, "You're doing it." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am," because whatever, you got those people in your life who you just, again, very few, but you always say yes to. And I said yes. And over the years, I was a very active member. And then I started traveling more. I started doing more NACE speaking. I started going to WIPA things. And I have a kid and cats and a husband and all those things. I could not go to as many of these as I wanted to, the Richmond NACE local stuff. I really couldn't. Even though I was networking my face off, I could not be among my home team as much as I would like to. And for me, I had to that was hard. I had to reconcile with that because statistically, I was not getting as much business from Richmond NACE because I was getting business in other markets and yada yada, but I still wanted them to know how much I supported them. So I do what I can, and they know that I do what I can. And so NACE Experience came, and two things happened. One is, the joke is, I'm almost never available for a photo because it's like, I'm over here, I'm over there. They waited and found me so we could take a Richmond NACE picture together. I was so unbelievably touched. Also, I show up in Cincinnati and I go to my room, and on the bed is my Richmond NACE shirt with my name on it. I would get emotional now. And I got very emotional, like very choked up about it. I'm going to be good about it right now because they still remembered me. And that meant so much to me. And I hope that you guys take with that level of seriousness, and that your fellow NACE members and your vendors, because they're the people that are going to help carry us through on the other side of this right now. I guarantee it. So I hope that you put into it as much, because it's not just about statistics, but it's also about helping each other during these times. Also, your well-being. Now, this is funny to talk about this week because this has been a week for a lot of people, and this pandemic has been so impactful to all of us at this point. And it's funny coming from me, because from a long time I didn't take care of myself, and I still don't take care of myself great, but not to brag, but I do take care of myself better now. And it's little wins. So if there's anybody out there who's already like a self-care guru, that's amazing. And you can fast forward this 45 seconds if you're watching the recording. But for the rest of us who are like, I'm in hospitality, I work a million hours, I'm in the pandemic, I don't know what to do. I found that incrementally, little successes along the way is what keeps me going, what's keeping the business going. A couple of years ago, NACE Experience, when we went to, it's always about NACE Experience, isn't it? We were in, I'm going to say it wrong, we were in Palm Springs or Palm Beach. You know where we were, Palm Springs. We were out in California. I didn't want to mess it up on this one because I always mess up the two of them. And being in the Florida chapter today, I didn't want to screw this up. But right before I came out, my grandmother passed away, and it was very sad. It was my last grandparent, and I knew it was coming. So it was very sad, but it was also something that we knew was coming quickly. And so I was going to be able to go to NACE and literally go fly to Boston to it's like same day, overnight, fly there and make it there. And I was able to do that. But before I did that, knowing I could do all that, I went ahead and reached out to two of my friends, Lindsay and Kevin, who are also NACE members, Silicon Valley, shout out. And I said, do you guys want to fly in a day earlier and go to Disneyland, which is so their thing? And Lindsay came with, well, they both did, with the ears ready to go. And I got to tell you, that picture was actually taken right before I went on Splash Mountain and got so soaked. By the way, don't have children sitting behind you because that's what happens. I was so soaked. We were laughing so hard. You know that belly lift laugh when you like are falling over laughing so hard? That was good for my soul that day, having something like that happen. I would encourage you to find those moments as well. So even if I don't take all my vitamins and whatever, I know I should, but to find these moments for your well-being. On the other side of it, just briefly, is one of the things about being a working parent is you feel, at least I do, that I'm failing all the time at something. I may be great at this, but I'm ignoring that or whatever. But the one thing I hold on to is I find ways to be in the classroom, and I do mystery reader. And so I go in, and oftentimes we write a book and all those things. And it's little things like that that keeps my well-being satisfied so that the business can continue. So my point in this is I'm not a self-care guru. I'm not the one people come to about that stuff, but it's important that you take the time to take care of yourself. And this is coming from the person who does it the least usually, but I've seen such a vigor and energy in the business because of it. Next, your relevancy. Guys, this is where we're really getting into the nuts and bolts here. I'm a publicist. I can't help myself when it comes to this, but this is the second most important thing we're going to talk about today. We talk about tracking success, and now let's jump into the relevancy. What we're going through now with COVID, let's say specifically, okay, right now, we have to make sure that we are the port in the storm for our clients right now. Your relevancy, you have to be top of mind, because maybe people aren't booking right now, but they are going to book again, and you need to be in front of those people all the time so that they can see you as that safe harbor. Now, when COVID hit, OFT hit the ground running, and Keith, forgive me because I sent you a slightly updated. We have easily picked up about 120 pickups related to COVID since it started, to double what he shared. And it was because we wanted to be that port in the storm for our couples, for the special events industry as a whole. And this is a great example of some of the folks that went out there. And in some of you, you'll know from some of the recent webinars as well, we wanted to go out and serve as best we can. And relevancy now more than ever is going to be so important. I actually, you guys are going to get at the end, if you sign up for it, you'll get my slides, but you're also going to get this document that walks you, will be bigger than this, but a document that walks you through 5 things to do in the next hour to get press, and it works. I put it together. People use it all the time, and I suggest you look at it, because you want to be the one that the local media is reaching out to when they have questions about planning events and COVID and all those things, and you want to be the person on the podcast. You want to be that person when that deluge of new event pros come into town, that at least a discerning prospective client can look at your site and see, as seen in the New York Times, Wedding Wire, special events, the NACE blog, all of those things. That's what they want to see. So your relevancy is so essential. I could talk forever about it. Here's the good news. There is a boom right now in podcasts, event-related podcasts, events and weddings as well. If you haven't done so already, I would highly encourage you to go out and take a look at, just type in event industry podcasts, wedding industry podcasts, and see all of the amazing podcasts out there. For the uninitiated, it's sort of like a radio show almost, but you find it on your phone. People will pick specific themes, whether it's weddings, special events, event tech, and oftentimes they'll bring guests on. And what you can do is, when you jump on like that, is and you take a look at what they're talking about, really think to yourself, how can I lend to the conversation right now? What can I do to be a guest and be kind of that port in the storm for people? So this is just a brief list. I'm actually going to send you guys a full list of, at least on the wedding side, of wedding industry podcast list. So you'll get that if you sign up for the stuff at the end. Also, when it comes to relevancy, one of the things that I push all the time is putting your events out there in the marketplace. That's going to be, corporate. For my corporate friends out there, a little bit harder. There's fewer places for that. Special events, I know Biz Bash, some places will do like lifestyle shoots and things like that. But on the wedding side right now, guys, there's going to be a massive content gap of about 4 to 5 months, where a lot of these sites are just not going to have the content that they need. So you don't necessarily have to hire a publicist. That's my sales pitch. Don't hire me. You can pitch things yourself. Absolutely. You can take these events, especially if you do have a little bit more time on your hands. And I know everyone's schedule a little bit different right now, but there's 2 bright lights. There is Matchology, which just offers you for 30 days for free to be able to submit. And what I would suggest is this, and this is a slide I actually took from my Engage slide from last December. So I truly mean this week now more than ever. Pay attention to the local and niche spots out there. That is where you're going to see a lot of success. Everybody wants to go after the big names, and I get it. The green wedding shoes and Martha Stewart wedding. And if you can get those, that is amazing. But I can say as a publicist that best publicity, the best sign of relevancy is when you can find your exact audience and you pick a channel, you have the message, I'm awesome, take a look at this event, right? You're picking the channels that directly reach out to them. So take a look at all the different ones. You've got Love Inc. Brittany's a great partner of NACE, where she's all about inclusivity. Destination, of course, Maharani, Minulushi, all the things. So take a look at some of those niche places and start from there. So just wrapping up here, this is what successful wedding and event pros are doing right now, and this is what you can be doing as well. So take some notes here. One, I want you to seek inspiration outside of the industry, especially now. I am tired of seeing things over and over and over again. I'm hoping some of you actually got I did a event industry coloring book recently. I'll send a link out if anybody wants it, but it was the good, bad, and the mason jar. And it made fun of the fact that like it was all these different trends, and I didn't say which ones were highs and lows, but there were a lot of mason jars in it too, where you could have fun and kind of color and do them. And my thought is this: everything is overdone. We see the same things over and over again. We have these couples who come in and they show you something from Pinterest that was pinned 18 months ago from a wedding from a year before that. So I find some of the most successful people I've surrounded myself with over a year are the ones who find inspiration from walks in museums, from architecture, from fashion. They go outside of the industry. I had this one gentleman I worked with for a long time from Marrakesh, and he refused to look for inspiration inward here. He looked out to travel, and of course Marrakesh, it was beautiful, but travel and books and architecture and all the things. That man won so many design awards, and I had to pick him up on his behalf all the time, that I always knew that security was going to stop me at the airports because I'd have these like pointy trophies in there for him. But he did it in part, not just his pure talent, but it was also because he was inspired by things outside of what he sees every day. Next, insert technology or integrate it into your day-to-day. This is not the time to talk about making sure your site is mobile friendly. We're past that at this point. It's the mobile friendly. If you guys don't have contracts that people are signing electronically, that's the next thing you should be doing. But what we're seeing is Generation Z is coming up. They're not only the people starting to get married now, it's the younger end of it, but it's also people who are planning association events, they're meeting planners, all of those guys. And so they're going to expect you in a totally different way to communicate. What that means is setting up your Calendly or Acuity or some sort of tech app so that instead of going back and forth about, oh, okay, when can you meet? Wait, 4 o'clock Eastern, is that Central Time? Find an app such as Acuity or Calendly that you can send out to people so they can click on it and just pick something for you. It's incredible. Again, Kevin Dennis does a great job talking about this. I have really gotten into Loom. Okay, I know everyone's into Zoom right now, and that's what we're doing. I am stealing the idea from Christy Osborne. I use Loom now. So when someone comes to me and they have a bunch of quick questions for me and I don't have time to type or my hand's about to fall off, which has been a problem in the last 9 weeks, is I do Loom. It's free. I do a very quick video. I send it out and it lets me know when it gets viewed. All of these things we need to be integrating. At this point, you have to evolve or you're not going to see success. And it's not the basics anymore that Wedding World used to talk about like 10 years ago. It's now talking about thoughtfully integrating technology. Staying connected by being memorable. Guys, right now, staying connected, it's so funny. Some people, I'm curious what other people think about this, if anyone ever wants to talk about this, is right now I feel less lonely than I ever could because I'm surrounded, like I'm always on Marco Polo and I'm staying connected and social media. It's almost too much. I have to shut it down. But I think part of it is, in a good way, is because we're finding ways to stay connected in a way that's going to make me remember you far after COVID, far after 2020, far after all of these things. And so I would encourage you now to take that amazing creativity that I know you all have. I'm sure you're all more creative than I am, and find ways to stay connected right now with people. I had a friend and client who was having a tough go of it with some stuff going on, obviously, with going on. And so what I did is I found an Olympic skier on Cameo. If you haven't been on Cameo, it's amazing. You can spend like as little as $10 and you can have a celebrity or a pseudo celebrity. I think I spent like $20 or $25 for an Olympic skier because this person was really into like Olympics and skiing. It was just a really good fit. Gave her a pep talk. And it was very appreciated from her. Right now I have people where so I do a lot of Marco Polo. I don't know if anybody else is doing that, but I'm talking to my friend Cece in Alabama a lot. She's a florist. She's a lot of fun. And I'm always walking. So I walk 5 times a week and it's like always bouncy. And I'm always apologizing for being bouncy. And then she sent me, she's like, I got a package coming from you. She'd been collecting cat things for me for forever. Then she bought me, we could not figure this out for her, it was a thing that it puts over my neck. So technically I could put my phone in and walk and the camera wouldn't bounce. I was so touched. I'm emotional all the time right now. I was so impacted by someone thinking and connecting with me in that sort of way. Talking about royals, a couple years ago during the holidays, we wanted to send out cards because I find a lot of people are doing online greetings, which I've been in busier years. I've dealt with that as well. Well, This year in particular, what we did is I took my entire team and we had an illustrator put us in here as the bridesmaids, the wedding party to Harry and Meghan, and people went bananas for that. And also my coloring book, I should have put that in there as well. That's another thing. During the royal wedding as well, in order to reach out to the media, instead of just pitching them via email, I got their addresses and I actually sent them this royal wedding box. That was like a starter kit to get them all, like I assumed most of them weren't as nutso about the stuff as I was. And I had someone design with all of my colors in it, all the different things, like here's a history of the dresses and here's a perforated card so people can ask questions during the royal viewing, but now, or the royal wedding. And I'll say some of these things, well, the cards didn't cost a lot. This costs a little bit more. But things like putting the thing over your neck and walking with it, those little things. I've had a couple stationary people recently send me beautiful little notes of reminders of tales of resistance, tales of sustainability right now. These are the things. It could be as easy as writing notes to people and just making sure that you're staying connected memorably, but this should be a priority. Also, designing your own opportunities to connect. Right now, guys, we don't have the ability necessarily to be together right now, so find ways online to connect. Have happy hours. There are fun apps that you can jump on with people and stay connected that way. I know we get tired of online education, me saying this in the middle of a webinar, of course, but that's okay because that is one way to connect, but there are other ways if you're starting to get fatigued that you can stay connected with people. I go on, we do this hilarious app essentially where I forget the name of it. Oh, House Party. And so I see some of these people on there and we have so much fun playing like quiz games and things, and it just gives me 45 minutes to like connect with the outside world and have a little bit of fun. And last but not least, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't add this today. It's also a matter of doing better. And when doing better, I mean about diversity. It's not just education, but thinking ahead to how we can make sure we're welcoming of all people. Terica Skaggs did a really great panel, 3 hours. It was amazing a few days ago, but of that came unity through community, and the idea of all of us being able to work together. So I added this slide in light of everything going on, of course, this week and beyond, and asking yourselves, of course, how we can do better, not only as companies, but also as people. So things to be mindful of. So where do we go from here? Hopefully you have a headache and a long list of things to keep you busy. I'm just kidding. But at this point, I want you to focus on the things that resonate the most with you. And that's going to be probably, hopefully in part, I want you tracking where people are coming in. I hope you're fostering these relationships, even if it means a handwritten note out there somewhere. If you are in a position where you can really make sure your finances are in shape, I want you, I mean, there are cash flow classes that I can recommend to you. I've sponsored a bunch of people to go to things like that, just to be able to get our ducks in a row and ask ourselves, what does success look like this year? Because it's going to look different than last year. And what does sustainability look like for the long run as well? Surround yourself by the right people, even if you're not in a position right now to do a bunch of hiring. And believe me, I get that. But to be able to start researching who could be the right fit for you when the time comes. So last but not least, a little bit of a quote here. Thomas Edison once said, "I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." Now, Thomas Edison, you know him for all of his, all the things, inventor of the light bulb and among many other things. But what you may not know is he is the inventor of the nightmare talking doll, as I like to call it. And so many, many, many years ago, he created the first talking doll. And so what he did is he he took this doll and he stuck this phonograph down it. And if you want to be terrified, go on YouTube and type in Thomas Edison dolls, and they do like bedtime prayers, and it's horrifying. There's a few out there. He charged what would be the equivalent of $500 for these scary nightmare dolls. They were a massive flop. For all the things he did well in his life, that did not work very well. So what I like to tell people is this: listen, if someone can bounce back from this thing, then we can bounce back from almost anything. So anyways, I have taken up more than enough of your time. Keith, I know I went a little over. I was excited with all sorts of, you got me too excited. So I went over a little bit. Here's my contact information, guys. What I want you to do is this: if you're interested in getting, you're gonna get my PR packet. You're gonna get, I've got so many things. I'm gonna send you my slides. I'm gonna send you my podcast list, all the things. Go ahead, take your phone, do it now before you forget. I want you to type into the number, instead of a phone number, put in 33777, okay? 33777. Type in the word OFD and text it to 33777. Make sure uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. Yeah, please, the one thing you don't want to do, and this is very sweet when people do this, they'll come and say it's not working, and I'll look and they'll say, OFD, you did a really great job, which is very sweet. But it happens once, at least once every time I do a live conference, Keith. It's adorable. And I'm like, no, I really appreciate that. But you just have to say OFD, and then it will prompt for your email, and then you'll go ahead and you'll get the slides immediately, and then I'll be following up with more information for you guys, more than you even asked for.
Amazing. Oh my God, Megan, you
Yay.
did not disappoint. If anything, you
Thank
blew my
you.
mind on so
Oh,
many
thanks.
different
You
points.
scared me with your introduction. I got stressed out.
No, I don't want you to be stressed out, but I mean, I think it's super important that about the business and friendship. You know, I was just actually having this conversation about a website that I'm with that hasn't been giving me a great ROI, and I was like, but I really like them, and it's like, but you know, this is the time that you have to make those really tough decisions, you know,
It's
and you
really,
have
it's so difficult. And listen, it's so hard, but if it's a thoughtful decision to move on, and I have to say, there's power in the word because, right? So if someone comes back to you and says, well, why are you leaving? Well, if I can show that this is not a fit for me anymore, there's not a lot of argument with it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, and then also to diversify your referral base. I mean, we just get so comfortable with the idea that, yeah, of course we're going to get referrals. We love them. We have a great working relationship, but it's important to keep diversifying that so that way you continue to, you know, increase the amount of referrals that you're getting. But you know what I really
Absolutely.
loved? I really love the idea of sending people notes. I've been doing it myself, but like, let me give you an
Mhm.
example. Like this came in the mail the other day, and it's from Anna Hess Events, and I love Anna, but it says, "Hey, party people," and it's a party in an envelope, and it has like all sorts of. Oh,
Oh,
it's so good. I mean, I was
I
so
love
good, and right,
that.
and then I've been sending out like I got with a local artist, and so I've been using it's a combination of watercolor and actual pencils, colored pencils, and so it's a little thank you note, but you can take it and frame it because it's actual art.
Oh, I
And I've been
love that.
right, and so I've been sending that to people just as a way to hopefully support some local artists during this time, but also then to send out cool links, you know, cool
Well, it's
something
being
to.
thoughtful too. Yeah, I don't want people to walk away from this saying, oh God, now I have to find money and like buy stuff for people. It's
No,
not about that. It's a
no,
thoughtful note.
yeah,
Let
it
them know
really
you're thinking
is.
about them. I did that coloring book, which we've had 1,500 people download that thing. It was so funny. And it cost me I went on Fiverr, I found a great person, and it cost me very little. And, I was like, all right, we're
Oh
going
my
to go ahead
goodness.
and, yeah, it was just worth doing something like that.
So Kathy, do we have any questions? Just, quick
I
questions?
have one because
Okay, good.
one they multiply, so I expect another one by the
I'm
time
here as long as you need me to. So just whatever you need. I'm just kidding.
what programs do you suggest for electronic contract signing?
Oh my
Oh, yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a few different ones out there. It depends on what you're looking for exactly. I can tell you that Rock Paper Coin, who full disclosure is a client of mine, but they do a wonderful job in contracts and invoicing. So if you want the whole shebang through them, they do a great job. If you have invoicing that you already used and you're comfortable with, or that's not in your hands, I sign up and pay for DocuSign, DocuSign.com, DocuSign. And I will say too, for those who are like, well, I want a proposal that looks a certain way to go out. Like I also use betterproposals.io as well. But I would say between the three of those, you're going to find the right fit.
Yeah. And then anything else yet, Kathy?
Not yet.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that we will, this whole week of amazing webinars, we're actually going to have been recorded, and that we will be sending out links to everybody. So that way, if you missed anything or you weren't able to attend one of the webinars, you will actually be able to go back and check them out. Because honestly, it's free, and the information has been invaluable. I mean,
It's been awesome.
it's like the best of both worlds. And then also we'll be, I just said that, providing links. And then also be on the lookout for more virtual opportunities from NACE. We don't like the word pivot, but NACE National is doing just that. They are reimagining how we get information back to our membership, and to ensure that they continue to provide value, because being a NACE member isn't just about being part of our family, it's about the continuing education, and it's definitely something that we are working on and will make happen for you guys. And then also, I just want to go back to being relevant. I think that it's more important than ever And and Megan said that towards the end of her thing, is that you need to be relevant. I do a little thing on Tuesdays called Behind the Veil. So it's Tuesdays at 2, Behind the Veil. And we bring on a florist, a photographer, a DJ, and we answer questions from people that may not have an event planner, that because it's a scary time. And so, being able to provide free information on a weekly platform is a big deal for people. Don't be afraid to give your information out there. I mean, you don't want to give people names and numbers because they'll go around you. But at this point, I feel like doing community service is never a bad thing, ever, ever, ever. I mean, would you agree with that, Megan?
100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
Awesome. And then so just a reminder that if you want to get these slides, you're gonna text 33777 with the letters OFD. That's it. Nothing else. We love you. You're amazing. Oh my, OFD just by itself. And I just want to say thank you again for providing this incredible week of webinars.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking. I was so excited about it. And a special thanks to all of our NICE partners who have very kindly brought in our speakers. It gives us a purpose, really come out here and try and help during these times. So thank you.
It's incredible. It was just an incredible week.
Sorry, I have one comment to
mention. Oh no, is it a nice one? If it's not, I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
If it wasn't a nice one, I might delete it. It's from Lisa, and she said, "Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Aww. Yeah, and honestly, it was just, excellent speakers all week. Kathy and I were talking offline about the fact that we've had the webinars that we've seen this week have been the best webinars that we have seen this entire time. And it's, obviously we're all doing a ton of webinars. And so.
Yeah, I know, we're all webinared.
Oh my
this was
God.
great though. I appreciate it. And I was going to say a big shout out to you, Keith. I spent most of the week managing my speakers gushing about you. Oh my God, he's out. So I was like, if I get one more email about how wonderful Keith is, I'm just teasing. It's been a pleasure though.
Oh no, it's been amazing. And honestly, in this industry, our job is to try to make people's lives better. And I think each one of us is trying to do that in our own little way. Obviously, we want to try to get more business at the end of the day, but I think that most of our people out there are motivated by bringing joy, bringing joy to people. So
absolutely,
I love our NICE family. Seriously,
me
it's
too.
amazing. And so I hope everybody had a great week. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Absolutely, pleasure.
Right. And so remember, there'll be links that we'll be sending out this week if you missed any of the webinars. But after that, everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
Mwah.